I'm in Flint, Michigan on the extremely busy Dort Highway. And this is a record store. It's been here since 1984. Musical memories. You know, I started working in, coming to Flint in 2006 working, and I did not know about this place. So it's right here. Now, regretfully, Dort Highway isn't always known as the greatest highway in the world, but it's very busy, and they've been here for a very long time. Right now, they say they don't get a lot of people coming in to buy the records, but they do a lot of they send out stuff too, especially to Japan and to Europe. So let's go inside and see what we got. Camera in it.
Yeah. No.
I got a couple albums that are huge, huge wants for me. So I am just so excited that they've been reissued. But first, I did a tour of a store in Flint. It's, as I said in the opening, it's been open since 1984, and I never been in there or heard of it. So I was talking to my local record store, and it was actually Michael Christensen was up here, and talking with Jim, and we were talking about this. They were talking about this other store in Flint. I go, what other store? And they told me what's that, and I used to go fairly close, be fairly close to that when I worked for Kmart. I had a Kmart that was down the other side of this Dort Highway, and I can't believe I never had heard of that place. So it was fun to kind of go there and see. Now, Dort Highway is it is a bad area, okay? Dort Highway is just filled with closed stores, closed shop, even closed strip joints. It is a rough road. But in 1984, when this was built, this Musical Memories was built, it was very nice. I mean, it was thriving. But now, everything around it's pretty much closed. So, tough area. But yeah, it isn't like you walk there and go, I'm going to get killed. You don't feel that way whatsoever. It's still, you feel perfectly safe. It's a very busy highway. But at night, I sure wouldn't the heck be walking around there. So Musical Memories. It was fun to go in to see the store. I saw albums that I've never seen in the wild before, ever. And that was exciting, to look at these and say, wow, look at this. It's just the pricing was, I don't know quite how he prices. I think it's a spot where if you go and you start to dig, you can find some gems if you have time. I was in between point A to point B, so I stopped to look, and I didn't have a lot of time to look, to really dig. But the Miles Davis, I've never seen some of that, the early 50s, that the 50s Miles Davis from the Prestige catalog, and there they were. I don't know about the quality. Some of the jackets weren't good, but $50. I don't know about that. And they had, Parliament albums. There's Funkadelic albums. You see all the Van Halen. My goodness. It's just, again, I'm not sure where the pricing is, and maybe the owner does a deal. I tell you, if he ran a half-price sale, I would go nuts in that place. Absolutely nuts in there. There was, because there was a lot of good stuff. A lot of CDs, but I thought when I looked, they were like priced at $18 for these used CDs. So it's a great store. If you're in Michigan, it's worth a visit. It's worth going in there. It's worth going to take a look, because there is some great stuff, and you just might find something. Maybe they'll do a deal with it. But it's just albums I rarely see out in the wild, and they were there. So to me, it was definitely well worth checking out, and just to enjoy it. All the stuff on the wall, very easy to find. So Musical Memories. So let's get into these albums. There was a reissue from one of my favorite groups, and just so happy about this. And the group is Spaceman III. and both of their first and second albums I was able to pick up again. There's what I had. Now this this is not an original Before the Flood. This was a reissue. So yeah, we have that. But Spaceman 3. Sonic Boom says it's music that feels like a drug rush coming, or the slashing of your wrist as life is draining out of you. That's how he describes the music. Well, that's pretty darn graphic, wouldn't you say? I mean, geez, holy cow. Yeah. The music, it's a fusion of garage rock, minimalism, gospel, progressive rock, and with it, there's this psychedelic haze of drone. They loved the droning, and they really got, to me, like one of the great shoegaze bands that really got that whole genre up and going. You think it goes back to the Velvet Underground with John Cale, with the way he would take his viola and make a drone, and they just take it to a whole different level. So this is their first album. It came out in 1986. It's just wonderful. They do Little Doll is on here, and Little Doll is a cover from I think from the Stooges. Roller Coaster, that was a cover from Rocky Erickson, and Marianne actually was it's a cover as from Juicy Lucy. Juicy Lucy called it Just For You. They changed the name to Marianne, but it is a cover. So it's interesting on this album that you have these covers. Nothing special inside, just a white sleeve. What I really liked on this album that always got me really interested was the song Hey Man. And Hey Man, they take the tune and they take it from a gospel tune. And in the 60s, there was a Sidney Poitier movie called Lilies of the Field. And the big song on there was Amen. Now, being a preacher's kid, guess what? We saw that. It was on TV all the time, too. And so they would be singing, Amen, 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 Amen. Sing it over. On here, it's Hey Man, hey man, hey man, hey man, hey man. Ta-da. I heard that and go, why are they singing the Lilies of the Field? Isn't that a weird choice? And then they're saying Hey Man, but it sounded just like Amen. So excited to get this thing back. I'm glad that the reissue was there. There's been bootlegs out there. I don't want that. So this is great. Their first album. But this was their second album. And what made this really exciting, there's the original vinyl from it. I had an original. I bought the original from Jim Gleason at Radio Wasteland. Obviously Before the Flood. It was from his personal collection. Again, he was starting this record store and he had this in there. And I had been, through different comps that I had, I'd learned about Spaceman 3. And so I bought this, and it's like, it was my prized possessions by far. So after the flood, I saved, this. And so, there's the original label. So I mean, and I've been looking, but this hadn't been reissued. Now it is. And so this is their second one. This, I can't even tell what's inside. It's sealed. I just have that one. I can play, but I probably should do this and not wear that one out, but it don't matter. But this is the one that set them aside. I mean, this is their, to me, their very best album, the one to have. And it is called The Perfect Prescription. And it's a concept album. Yes, a concept album. And it is, the concept is, it's a drug trip from the inception all the way to the end, and the highs and lows. And we're not talking popping pills. We're talking about throwing it right to your veins. So that's pretty brutal. But you think about what Sonic Boom said their music's like. I mean, yes, they said their music is made to be played while you are drug induced. Now, coming from a guy who's the biggest drug I've had was aspirin. It's like, what do I know about it? I just know about it from what the music is. But I love this album. It is so good. On here, the drone is not as much, and you can hear more craftsmanship. The other one had a lot of covers. This one doesn't. And their vocals come out more. They're not buried underneath a lot of drone. There is some soft and quiet songs. There's some harder songs. And it really, you get a little something of everything. So this is super excited to get this thing and to hear it, and to hear this group as they expand the music. From here, you had groups like Loop came out, Ride. The Bible, this was the Bible for these shoegaze bands to really get going. So Spaceman III, their second one, The Perfect Prescription. So happy to have that. This was one that was kind of hard for me to track down. Devo's second album. And Now for the Future. And I've had a dog of a time trying to find this thing. This is the album. The first album was done by Brian Eno. Eno was everywhere. This one had no Eno. And on this album, they brought in the keyboards. The first album, maybe there's some keys, but on this one, they really went all out. Well, not all out, but they began to experiment more. They were learning what to do with it. Their upcoming albums would be more synthesizers, more keys. You'd hear a lot more of that. But on here, the biggest thing, I guess, is the Johnny Rivers song, Secret Agent Man. And their rendition is just incredible. Kind of what they did with the Rolling Stones' Satisfaction. It's even better with that. You have the very cheerful and creepy The Day My Baby Gave Me a Surprise. You had the very hard rocking Smart Patrol and Mr. DNA. Just great stuff. Promotional, not for sale, but it's not a white label promo or whatever. So yeah, I was happy to finally get this one. I don't need all of Devo. I'm a fan of it, but the first few albums is the most important albums to me of what I want, because that's when they were at their quirkiest before they became super popular. Some very common albums, but I hadn't had yet. Jethro Tull's third album, Benefit. And here, this is when they finally, their first two albums were more, their first album was very bluesy. Their second album, Stand Up, had a lot of blues. This one, they shake off the blues and they go into folk. You hear a lot more kind of a folk feel to the music. And there's the sleeve, that's kind of nice. And yeah, it has a folk feel, but still Martin Barr's on here, and Martin Barr plays guitar. I mean, he just rocks, and he really brings in the hard rock feel to the music. Ian Anderson, of course, is playing the acoustic guitar. John Evans makes a guest appearance, the keyboardist. This is the first album John Evans appears on. He's not a member of the band. He makes a guest appearance, but becomes a very important member of the band. Did this have any of the really big hits? It had Teacher on here, which is something you could find, and on a lot of compilations. I find it to be a good album. It's a good Jethro Tull album. It's one I enjoy. The one that comes next after this, Aqualung. This is their build-up to Aqualung. Then you had Aqualung, and after Aqualung, you had Thick as a Brick. You can find this everywhere. There's so many copies of it, but it is, you want to find the one that has obviously the newspaper, that opens up. This, some people will say one of the greatest concept albums ever made, and you'll hear critics talk about that this one has held up through it's gone through the test of time. Isn't that just cool, this newspaper? This is just freaking fun. I talk about a great, cool way to make an album. And of course, this has, Thick as a brick. Ba, 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 la, 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 la. Boy, I like that song a lot. And there is, I believe, I think as a brick is on here. Is a Fat Man on here? B08 gave me put their little sticker on there, so that's pretty exciting that they were able to do that for me. And of course, there you have the label. So this is just it's a really good album. Yeah, I never had thought of Jeff Littall's prog rock, but this, if you want a prog rock album, this is to me, probably their greatest prog rock album. And it's, yeah, just super good to have. I used to have, I had all Jeff Littall. Now I'm a little more picky on it. There's some stuff I need, some stuff I don't need to have, but this is one I needed to have. And, just finally, actually, I got 2 copies now. As I saw another one, this was the better one, so good to have. From Nigeria, this came out in 1982, King Sunny Ade, the one I used to have again. This was trying to get King Sunny Ade national exposure, and it worked. He played juju music, and juju was huge in Nigeria, and this was a huge artist. But how do you break them out? How do you get them into other places? And that's what this was all about. So Sunny Ade there on Mango. And this, easy to find, very inexpensive album. Great if you want to hear what juju Nigerian music was all about. This is a wonderful way to go, and you can't go wrong. Final one, I don't know why I have it or bought it, but I do, and because I got a box set of Bob Dylan, and I have this in that box set. I think this was an original, and so maybe that's why. I don't know. John Wesley Harding. It's a good album. Again, I've never claimed to be a big Bob Dylan fan, and I still don't claim to be it. But I did do a video on trying to find out what I liked about him, and I did. I liked this album. It was a good album. So, they have the Ballad of Frankie Lee and Judas Priest. Judas Priest. Wow, that's where it came. How about that? Well, that's how Judas Priest got their name. I don't know. So, yeah, for whatever reason, I got it. It's just mine. So that's it. That's my midweek. Hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to check out podcasts I do with Jim Gleason. You can find that on iHeart, 2 guys talking about records, and Spotify and Podbean. Yeah, thank you very much for dropping by, and please make sure you stop by on Sunday. Have a good evening. Bye.